Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Ways of the World, where we focus upon a different country and culture and discover the different ways of the world through the lenses of Villanova students and faculty. These Villanovans have studied abroad and are here to share their experiences. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. Today, we are traveling through France, and I have with me here senior Katie Tuberosa and freshman JP Rogerson, who spent their spring break abroad traveling through France. What's better than that? Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's talk about France.
I feel like what I love so much about these trips, we went with the pastoral musicians, and what our director, Sean McElwee, strives for is to make sure that we get to experience a little bit of everything within France. So not only the culture, but we were singing groups, so we got to tour and sing and perform at a bunch of different places. It was really like a mixture of everything. We did like different sightseeing things. We had our own free time, and it was just one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, I mean, like the word that I said was fever dream, just because it went so quickly. We had to go through so many different towns, so many different venues, and we had so many different experiences in such a short amount of time. So it was hard to like digest it all, I feel like, but definitely absolutely worth it. No place I'd rather be over spring break. And there's just so much to talk about, yeah.
So I'm so excited to start talking about it. Yeah. How long was this trip? 8 days?
Yeah, like it was 8 days. We had a day of travel on either end.
Yes.
So long days.
Right.
Yep.
You went through all different cities. You packed it all in there. Let's talk about your itinerary.
We spent the first 3 days in Paris, and I absolutely loved Paris. I thought it probably was one of the highlights of the trip for me. It was beautiful, and the food was incredible too. I think that was something that I wasn't really sure about. I'm really a picky eater, but being able to just kind of try a bunch of different things there, had my first French baguette. That was incredible. It was really great. And then we had snails, like escargot. That was really different. Interesting.
Very
it was different.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I mean, honestly, I didn't mind it. There was so many different food options that I had too. The escargot was one. But then I had some great sandwiches, normal deli sandwiches from corner stores, and I was shocked. It's totally different than here, so that was really exciting. And there was a lot to do. It was very accessible, I feel like, to just travel around the city. They have a great metro system there, so even after we had our planned activities, I would go on the metro and we could easily access tourist sites or an active area to go downtown later at night. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
We did a little boat ride on the Seine, and that was
beautiful.
That was probably one of my favorite parts of Paris, and it was right around sunset, the nighttime, and it was just really cool to be able to see all of the popular Paris highlights, landmarks.
The Eiffel Tower too is
Eiffel Tower.
That was stunning at night. Beautiful on the river.
Yeah.
So that was I think the first day, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that was the end. So that we went from waking up early here, bus, plane again, and then we ended up after all that on a cruise seeing the Eiffel Tower at night. It was just it was nuts.
It just didn't feel real. I really like the word that you used, fever dream. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, the whole time.
You're are we really here? Is this real? Did it actually happen?
Yeah.
And then after Paris.
Yeah, we went to Caen. Am I saying that right? Caen.
Caen. Yes.
Caen.
Our tour guide was very he emphasized it was Caen. Yes.
Okay, I'm really bad at that. That was also another one of my favorites. I think those were my top two cities. Caen was really awesome. It's in the Normandy area, so I really just love the city life too. I think it's 3 hours outside of Paris. I wasn't sure how we were gonna enjoy it, but I really loved it, and I feel like that was when the group really bonded together too. Just because we had, I think Paris, there was so much go. There's so much to see, so much to do, and it's the same for Caen. But I feel like we had a little bit more time. I remember one night we got to walk around Caen and just kind of experience, walk around. We got to visit different restaurants and places just to hang out. And I feel like we really all got close because we just got to sit down and enjoy the night.
Yeah, there wasn't as much hustle and bustle like Paris. It was very frantic. It was awesome, but at the same time, it was just kind of trying to stick together. It was more of a logistical thing. And then we got to Caen, and it was just we were all we were free as a group, but we were kind of all just, in each other's presence more, I feel like. So it was nice. It was kind of a little bit more settled down. But I mean, it's a great town. It still had a great nightlife, a lot of cool historical things that we got to see. And we did a lot. How long did we spend there?
I think it was 2 days. I'm pretty sure.
We spent a couple nights there, and we still got to see a lot of that town. I was impressed that like it's a large place, but we actually did get to see a lot. So.
We got to, we spent Ash Wednesday. That was probably the biggest day, one of our most jam-packed days, because we went to Ash Wednesday Mass. We got to visit like Omaha Beach too, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Just to be able to kind of like, again, have that historical context and really be able to just, I don't know, get to see it in person. We had a lot of free time to like walk around and really experience that, which was nice. And then we had a concert. We had a lot of joint concerts during this trip, especially in the latter half. So we had a joint concert with, well, it was a children's choir.
Yeah. They did a great job. They did. They got the whole church like moving late at night, and not what we expected, but it was definitely something that we were like did not completely new, absolutely completely new.
Yep.
But they did a great job. The acoustics in there, I think, were interesting. I think that was our most like definitely like we kind of pieced it together in the last second kind of concert.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be very nice, and the crowd that we had the whole time. I mean, the whole trip. I feel like all the crowds that we had were actually like very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And the advertising that was done was awesome as well.
Yeah.
But that crowd was special, I feel like, that night, because it was a very impactful day. I mean, for me especially, I had an uncle who actually fought on Normandy Beach. He fought, I think, stormed the second wave at Utah Beach, which is like literally just down the road. You could see it from Normandy. And it was cool for me to be there because only a few members of my family had ever gone. So I did feel like it was like a part of like family history that I was actually there where my uncle was. But yeah, it was a very emotionally up and down day that day too, because we got to see the cemetery, and I know other people in the group also had relatives that were even buried there, and that's very powerful. So we got a lot of like up and downs that day, but it ended off with a bang with the children's choir. I think that was just like definitely a highlight. Everybody's going to always remember that, I think.
I think we were always, something that I think we were hesitant about was having those combined concerts just because we didn't know what to expect with the choirs. But we were blown away by the children's choir. And then what was really cool is like when we're performing and we're singing for our part of the concert, like being able to look out in the audience and like see how they also were taking it and reacting it was just such a cool experience. I remember we were singing one of our favorite songs, Ride the Chariot. And I remember we got to these solos where people got to showcase their skills and their voices. And I just remember seeing one of the faces of the children, and they just were like, their mouth was agape and they were so excited. And they're like, wait, this is so cool and different than like what we typically, I guess, experience in the church. So that was one of the highlights for me too with that concert.
Yeah, and throughout the trip, I feel like for songs like that, especially the ones where we had a little bit more like of an upbeat kind of tempo, I feel like it was I guess different for them to see that, and it was always taking like wonderfully. I mean, even we did it for the older crowd, I think too, towards the end of the trip, and they were clapping at the end of it. Like they were all into it. It's something that I was not expecting, but like when we were singing that, it was definitely it made me feel good that they we were taking their music very well, even though it was different, and vice versa too. It was a great musical exchange, I guess you could say.
So you had the children's choir, and then the second choir was more of an older group?
Yeah, that was one of the final 2 days. I mean, the final 2 days for us was like basically bus ride half the day and do stuff the other half of the day. So the last, because we finished in Lourdes, so this is now I guess working backwards from the end of the trip, but we finished in Lourdes, then the day before we were in Rocamadour, and then the day before that we were in the Loire Valley. So we really traversed like the last 3 days, half the country. And we had a couple performances, but our last one was great. It was an older choir, and they had some numbers, but I was cheering specifically for the basses because they only had 2 basses there, and I think there was like 24 or 25 altos and sopranos. So as a bass, I was like, they laid down a good bass line though. They did, and like I was saying, when they heard our music too, they came up to all of us after, and they were very receptive. They were cheering us on, and I think it was really cool.
Yeah,
so.
It was awesome. Like we talked about earlier, our director, Sean, and then just Encore Tours, which is the tour group we used, they really wanted to make sure that we got to experience like everything in the country, and Lourdes, we'll talk more about that. It was just like such a really great opportunity. So we really literally traveled. We spent like the first half of the trip in northern France, and then we literally drove all the way to almost the Spanish border, which was really cool. Definitely spent a lot of the time in the bus, but I also feel like that was really great bonding time too.
A lot of sleeping too.
A lot of sleeping. It was nice to like catch up on sleep after just, going. There's so much you want to experience, and there's only 8 days where you're like on the ground in France in a new country. Don't know if you're ever going to be back. So
you have to take advantage of it.
Yeah, even if
if you have to, lose sleep. couple nights or not sleep some nights. So yeah, it was a lot of like, get up and go. But I guess like, so we talked about Caen, right? So next city was, I need to pronounce it right. It's Rouen, Rouen. Rouen.
Yes.
And I don't want to butcher it, but that was the city we went to after Caen. And that was when we got to, it was our like individual performance. We didn't really have an audience, but it was a beautiful, beautiful church. It was a large church in the center of that town, which was heavily affected by World War II. It was kind of a lot of like sparse architecture, a lot of different like types of architecture, and different areas were developed to different extents because a lot of it did get bombed during the war. So yeah, it was interesting to go there and to see such a masterpiece of a church in the center of like a disheveled town. It was interesting to perform in. I really enjoyed that performance. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a really cool performance. I really liked the performances that we did where like there were some where we were like supposed to have a crowd, and then there were some that were kind of just like random, like impromptu. So going back to Paris, we performed impromptu outside of Notre Dame, and that was really cool. Being able to do that, we had a lot of people that just like stopped and wanted to record or just like loved the music. We also did Ride the Chariot. I know that was a really popular one. I also really like The Word Was God. That's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, okay.
That we did. No,
No, I'm not, I'm impartial. So.
I love that one. I'm really, like, I think
You're not alone in that. A lot of people in the group do.
Yeah. Well, they're correct.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
It's a good song.
It is a good song. It's a good song. I mean, I'm more of a Ride the Chariot kind of person.
Ride the Chariot's good too. But it was just really cool to like do those impromptu performances. I feel like that's where we definitely like you could sense the impact there, but I also think doing an impromptu performance where people aren't expecting to get that like, that sense of like music in their day. I think it was really cool to like have those random little performances.
Yeah, and they served as ads too. They served as ads.
Yeah.
Because like we were later that night at the La Madeleine in Paris, so I think I saw a few people. I wanted to scan the crowd when we did that performance, and I think I did see a few people that actually returned and came back for our concert because we performed.
That's awesome.
So
That's so cool.
That was kind of cool to see that, that impromptu performance did make an impact.
But our Mont Saint Michel performance was, well, technically we weren't supposed to perform there because we didn't get like a permission, but we were like, let's just like do an impromptu thing, like see what happens. Like nothing's gonna happen. So we started singing and people like were blown away and like we're starting to film and it was going really well. We maybe got like almost halfway through the song when one of the women that worked there like came in and interrupted and was like, no, you can't sing. Like you can't sing here. But the performance was like, it was still like, even though it was like not really a performance, I thought that was really impactful.
I think we made an impact. I
think we did too.
Yeah, because the crowd that developed in like the 30 seconds that we did have was a pretty big crowd, and they were pretty enthusiastic. And they were all pretty upset when the lady came over and was like, "You can't sing here," which is funny because later on in the trip, it just depended really on where you were. There was a lot of different historical like precedents that was set depending on the place. Because I know we went to the church in Rocamadour towards the end of the trip, and we literally asked one of the like pastoral people at the church if we could sing there, and they were like, "Sure." And we put on an impromptu performance that we had no idea we were going to do. So it really did depend on where we were, but that was definitely a pretty funny one. Yeah. I think there's a video of that one too. Yeah, so that's a good one. But yeah, that whole day actually in Mont Saint Michel I think was pretty awesome.
Love Mont Saint Michel. It's so hard to like pick a favorite, like as we're going through and like just thinking about the trip, it's so hard to pick a favorite day. Like there's so many cool like highlights of all the days.
I can't off the top of my head now. Really can't. But that one was definitely a highlight. I got to sit down and have lunch with our tour guide. Peter was a character. Man. But he recommended very good food, very good drinks that day for the whole day. So I had a great time on Mont Saint Michel, and that tour was also great.
Yes.
I got lost in there. I felt like in the castle. Yeah. Like I was trying to exit the castle, and it said exit, and I just walked down some spiral staircase. Thought I was going to a dungeon or something. It was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. But I ended up making it out. Thank God.
Yeah.
And now I'm here today.
Now you're here today.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the coolest parts of the trip for me was actually walking through that, because you don't realize how many different like rooms and different like compartments of that castle there are until you actually go inside of it and then get lost basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It was just so crazy to like realize like people, I don't know, like when we're going and like we're visiting these different like chateaus and just like different places in Mont Saint Michel and like other places too. It's crazy to think like people like lived here. People like it was like their life was like here, and like we're when you're like stepping into like a historical building or like a place just filled with so much history. It was just really cool. I kept thinking to myself like, wow, like again, that word fever dream I feel like keeps coming up, and you're like, wow, like I'm here. This is real. Like people, I don't know, like there's so much history.
Like it's like you shouldn't be in a place that's like so like historically significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of places that were like just casual houses of people that did not seem like that. Like we unfortunately didn't get to go inside Versailles. That was a muck up from our tour. Very unfortunate. But still, to think that like people lived in that was nuts. If you just look at the outside of it and just imagine that as somebody's house, like it's like you can't even think about how crazy rich they must have been to afford that. And then also, I think there was a couple other chateaus too that were just like one person that was their house. And I was like, wow, it's a lot. Because it takes you like an hour to walk through it. I'm like, you don't even use all these rooms. It's so grandiose, I guess.
Grandiose.
It's a good one.
It's a good word.
Good word. We took your itinerary question and like,
boom.
You ran with it.
You had so much in 8 days. That is insane.
And we didn't even go through it all.
That wasn't even it.
No. But yeah, it was nuts. We had the Mont Saint Michel, and then like I said, after that was the last 3 days of the trip, and it was a lot of bus rides. We had to just basically make it to Lourdes. That was the final goal. We just had to make it there.
Yes. That was awesome.
And I mean, I think we kind of split up more when we got there, so we probably had different experiences throughout the day. And I'm so glad we did get to go, because seeing like the grotto and all of that in person, I feel like it's such an image, like a Catholic image especially, to have that in your mind as something that's like, oh, it's there. But to like physically be there, to touch like the grotto, nuts. It's crazy. Fever dream.
Fever dream.
Yeah.
Yep. I know that we were really contemplating going to Lourdes. That was something that we were debating, and we started that like last May. I remember having a conversation with Sean about like, it's so out of the way from like Paris and like Caen and like the other places that we were planning on going. Is it worth it? And because I know it's such like an important staple of the Catholic Church is Saint Bernadette of Lourdes. She has a really significant impact on my life. She's a really important saint in my life and my family, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way or like wanted to experience that. And it was really cool that we had the opportunity to do that. We got to like wash our hands in the water, take some of the holy water back, see like the beautiful church that they built. Like it was incredible to see like when you come to this village, and you can see like just the fact that they really did build like such a
recently too.
place.
I mean, it happened in late 1800s, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So all that was constructed, just over 100 years ago. And compared to what we saw, I mean, we saw chateaus built like thousands of years ago. The fact that like it felt so like historic, even though it wasn't that old. That's how like crazy the architecture was there. But yeah, I thought it was awesome too.
Yeah, Lourdes was so cool. It was just really awesome I just really love like the history and like learning about Bernadette and learning about like how this town really was transformed, because the Virgin Mary got to like, she made 18 appearances to Bernadette. That was just, it was so cool to be able to like see that in real life, like you said. It was, that was definitely a highlight. I think that was the perfect way to close the trip too, with like such a special like moment. This was a pilgrimage, and I feel like having that religious aspect and being mindful of that throughout is something really important, and I love that we got to close on a religious
It was a good thing to look towards the end. I mean, not that any of us wanted it to end, but we knew that last step was going to be going to Lourdes. And for me, it felt like that was the moment where it kind of all felt real. Like, especially because we had a little bit more free time that day, just kind of walking around the massive church that was there. Like, that's kind of when the whole thing kind of sank in. I was like, wow, I'm here. Like, I did feel here. And I think the fact that I was in Lourdes, spiritually and whatnot, definitely probably was a part of that. But it was a grounding day, I feel like, because it brought us all back to like the reason why we're on the trip. So.
You had so much going on. This is going to be a really challenging question. If you could pinpoint from all of that one memory that you hold on to as maybe one of your favorites, what would that be?
Okay. I mean, for me, I think the one memory that is going to stick with me is when we went to Oradour-sur-Glane, the town that was like bombed and raided during the Second World War. And it was actually raided by accident. It was the wrong town because two towns had a similar name, but the Nazi soldiers decided that they were going to essentially raid the town by chance. And just to see that they decided to leave the town as it was, the Nazis attacked, I believe in 1944 or 45, And since then, they made a pact in 1947 to leave the town as it was after the attack. And for me, that was definitely the most powerful thing. And I feel like that does say a lot because it was a very religious and spiritual trip. And there's a spiritual component to going there as well, thinking about all the people who passed away during that event. But the fact that it was just a physical place that had so much horror and terror in it that people were just peacefully walking around, for me at least, was a crazy memory. And especially going into the church there, that was like very, very emotional because people passed away in that church. And a place that's supposed to be like very religiously significant, having like such a physical toll on people, I feel like was very, very powerful. That was like a heavy day to go there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one serious one and then one like just like funny moment. I feel like singing was so important. Like on the pilgrimage, like we would be singing, like we almost had a performance almost every day for the most part, except if we were traveling, and we would have multiple. And I remember our first concert, it was the first time we officially like put the whole repertoire together. And obviously it wasn't perfect. Obviously there were places that were, things weren't, 100%, but we really got to figure that out along the way. But one song that really stuck with me that I wasn't expecting was Ubi Caritas. I don't know why, like I felt like that was a song, I don't know if I just like never paid attention when we were practicing it or like what, but when we were singing it for the first time there, I just like, it kind of like made me realize like this is real. Like we're here. We're performing for this audience, and I really just loved Ubi Caritas. I really felt God present there in that moment, and I just remember like I was like, whoa, like this is a song that really stuck with me. Pastor Rose has done other trips in the past, like we went to Italy a few years ago too, and I remember there was another song that stuck with me too, and that was one of my favorite memories. It's like having that experience at the first concert, like, and that was the same thing that happened in Italy, like a song just like whoa, like it had that moment, and that was really special, and I really loved that. And then a silly moment, we like, obviously we're all singers, and when we're on the bus, we're getting a little bored, like we want to do something fun. So I don't know how this happened, but a few of us that were sitting in the back were like, we should sing Frosty the Snowman. We should do harmonies, we should perform it.
I did hear it, yes.
So then we like, it was a joke. We were like, okay, let's just sing Frosty the Snowman. And then it just like blew up into something so funny. And then we would like start like rehearsing it and just kind of like singing it around like France, which was so stupid, but it was really fun and really bonding. And I think that shows the power that music has to connect with people, whether it's like in like the actual concert setting or whether it's just you're singing with your friends in the back of the bus and maybe you're annoying some people, but also just like the power of music on this trip was so prevalent, and I just loved every minute of it.
Describe France for me in 3 words.
The silence is crazy.
Yeah. One word for me is going to be new for sure. Very new and different. Not exactly what I expected, but also I expected things to be different. Fever dream, does that count as one word?
There you go.
That's 2. Yeah, that's 3 right there. New fever dream.
New fever dream.
I think that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I went, like, it's still crazy in my mind.
Yeah. Well, because you got on last minute, right?
I did, yeah. So I can, I guess, get into this, but I joined the group back in October. Obviously, first year here, so I just would have joined anyway, but I joined a little after when most people do, which was fine. I kind of just got assimilated to the group. I kind of made a lot of friends with the instrumentalists at first, and then some of the freshman singers, too, I started talking to, which was nice. But around Christmas, an email got sent out from Sean, our director, that said that there was an extra spot open, and they contacted the first year members about that. So right away I jumped on that. I was like, can I go into France? I had no idea like cost, itinerary, time. I was just like, I saw France and music, and I was like, yes, I gotta go. And I'm so glad I went because I met like basically everybody in the group from that trip.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if I didn't go, I would have been fine. But because I did go, I'm way better off. And it does make me feel more a part of the community, which is nice.
I love that.
So
good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was nuts though. Like that's why it's even more of a fever dream for me, because I had no idea I was going. And then just like that, in the span of like 3 months, I'm here and gone. And I'm in France. So.
Yeah. Katie, what would your 3 words be?
Yeah, that's so hard. I would say unexpected, but in a really great way. I think it's so easy because I went sophomore year to Italy. I think I came in with a lot of expectations, or I was like, oh, I've done this before. Like, I know how an abroad trip works. And I remember walking in like with a little bit of nerves because a lot of the people that we went with either graduated or are doing different things. Like it wasn't the same group. And I was like, is it going to live up to Italy? And I feel like I walked in with those expectations. Yeah. But then a lot of the seniors and people that went said that you can't compare them. They were so incredible in different ways. And like, obviously there are good things about one thing, good things about another. You know, you can compare and contrast to an extent, but like they're so special. And the people that you go with, it's so different. The singing experiences are so different. The food, like everything. And I think, I wasn't expecting that. I kind of walked in and was like, oh, it's Europe. Like it's going to be like kind of similar, but it's just so different. And I think that was so cool to just kind of experience like a different culture. So it was surprisingly unexpected. Another thing, I think this trip, a lot of the seniors, again, I keep mentioning, shout out to my seniors, we were kind of like, oh my gosh, like after this trip, like it's real, like then we're graduating. We're like, but we have France. So I feel like there was a lot of, again, like buzz and like expectations around it. And it really lived up to those expectations. So I don't know if I can put one word on that. But it was so incredible and really lived up to the expectations. And then the last thing was just like fun. Like I had so much fun just getting to know like newer members that I haven't been able to connect with, or getting to like rekindle like old friendships, really seeing people come out of their shells and like just assimilate to the group. For me, when I went sophomore year, that was the reason why I became so involved in pastorals. I just recently finished my term as the president, which has been such a great experience. And I remember I came sophomore year and I was still kind of trying to find my place. I think you still are sophomore year, even senior year to an extent. And I went in and I was like, I don't even know, like, who am I going to hang out with? Like sophomore year, I was really worried about that. And the first 2 days, you know, you're kind of adjusting, but then it kind of all clicks. And I feel like being able to see that happen for the underclassmen was so special. And then also like getting to experience that too as a senior. I wasn't expecting that either. To just like make so many great friendships and solidify their friendships too.
I think we had like 8 or 9 freshmen that went.
Oh, wow.
So like just that, I got to see, you know, myself, obviously, I was able to connect with a lot of the other upperclassmen, but even seeing some people who I hadn't really seen talk a lot, like, and seeing them become like a more integral part of the group was really cool for me.
I don't know if that was 3 words, but that were 3 ideas.
Yeah, same thing. I'll take it. Well, Katie and JP, thank you so much. We are just about out of time, but if you could just quickly give me, I just have one more question. If any of our viewers are aspiring to travel to France, what advice would you give them?
I would say definitely like, to go in with no expectations, I think is one thing, for sure. Because if you go in with no expectations, then you kind of go in with a clean slate and you're able to develop, because especially if you've never been abroad before, you're going to have no idea what to expect. And a lot of things are going to be different, but as long as you don't go in expecting something, you're going to have a great time.
I think what I would say, it's actually what our tour guide said. We talked about him a little bit. Peter was so incredible and so integral to the success of this trip. But he told us when we were in Paris, I know a lot of people were worried about like, oh, I don't speak French. I'm not really familiar with the language. How am I going to be able to connect? I don't want to seem rude. And he just said, walk into a shop and say, bonjour, madame, monsieur. And if you say it like that and you have a smile on your face, then you're going to be okay. And I remember being so worried the first time I like went into a shop, but they really like, the people like really want you to enjoy the French culture. And I think that was so exciting. So my piece of advice is to just like walk in with a smile on your face. It's okay if you don't speak perfect French, you're going to figure it out. And it's going to be such a great experience.
Thank you guys so much for being here. That was awesome. You had such a jam-packed week, and I'm really glad that you got to experience that. And I'm so thankful that you guys got to come to the studio and tell us about it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for a new country next week. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky, and I'll see you next time.